Welcome back. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and today we have with us as our guest Aimee Gardiner, who is the director of Rhode Islanders Against Mandated HPV Vaccination, and HPV stands for Human Papilloma Virus. Aimee, where is this push coming from? It's not an epidemic by any means in the United States. It may be more serious, I think you said, in other countries where they don't have the healthcare system that we do. But it's not an epidemic here. So where is this push coming from that now we need to mandate it for our 12-year-olds?
Well, there's the CDC itself and the National Vaccine Advisory Committee, which just recently had a conference, and they had a whole half-a-day session specifically discussing the HPV vaccination and how to increase vaccination rates.
Were they talking about how it is becoming more and more of a danger for our young people? No, just about how to increase the number of people who are taking the vaccination.
Strategy. It was about strategy. How do we get more people to do it? How do we make sure we don't miss opportunities? How do we make sure the doctors are... So they talked about a mobile tracking app for a smartphone to encourage people to download this app, which is not currently out yet. So they can then enter their information, birth date, etc., allergies, and then this app can remind them of things like vaccinations, and try to get people to do things because their phone is reminding them. Sales strategies. Doctors should say that, oh, I gave it to my child. So they're actually encouraging doctors to use the patient-doctor relationship to...
Well, doctors, again, I don't have a problem with doctors giving the information, but I'm having a hard time if it's not this rampant epidemic, if 90% of the cases resolved by themselves with no intervention by a physician. I'm not sure why we're mandating it, why is Rhode Island mandating it? I mean, we're talking 11 and 12-year-olds. There are some adverse reactions that are pretty severe. Why is it being mandated? That's the part that just somehow doesn't click for me.
That's the question of the decade, because there's no logical...
We're talking about our healthcare system being really expensive and trying to make it more affordable for everybody. And there's a lot of folks out there who have huge deductibles now and huge premiums, and they would like to see that be less, right? More affordable. And seems that we're mandating a vaccine that costs money to mandate.
It's the most expensive one of them all.
It is very expensive too? Do you know how much it costs?
It's approximately $140 per shot, and it's a 3-shot series. And so that is significant. If you think about that times millions of people, that is a lot.
That's a lot of money, especially in light of the fact that we're trying to make healthcare more affordable, right? To use our dollars wisely.
Right.
Now, you have said that people can get cancer from this.
Mm-hmm.
That's expensive on the other end.
Right, exactly.
Has there been a study of whether this expense, I mean, if you get the cancer, there's nothing that's going to, right, that's going to justify not having taken it, I'm sure. But why do you have to take it when you're 12?
The Rhode Island Department of Health states that the reasoning behind that is to develop the antibodies and to have the protection prior to having had any intercourse or sexually intimate form of contact. Because once you do have exposure to HPV, if you were already exposed to any of the strains that are in the vaccination does nothing. The vaccination only is effective if you had no
Yeah,
previous exposure.
clean slate.
Right. And there's actually documentation directly from Merck, the manufacturer, in their study that shows that if you were exposed to one of the strains in the vaccine previous to the vaccination, you have an increased rate of cervical cancer developing from the strain. That actually showed in their study, and that was from Dr. Stowe, found that was on the show last year.
Okay, do they do a test before they give you the vaccine then to make sure you haven't been exposed?
There's
Anyway,
no
I mean,
test.
11 and 12-year-old, I get it's from sexual contact, so probably not. But,
No, they're not. And they're not telling like most 11 and 12-year-olds are not already pre-exposed, but they do recommend it for the high schoolers, and it's approved from 9 to 26 years old. But if you're 18, 19, 20, and you're going to your doctor and they're recommending this, most of them, almost none of them, are telling you that if you've already been exposed, there's actually data directly from Merck
that
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't be taking the test because it heightens your chance of getting cancer. Is there a test to test whether you've been exposed?
I've looked up online and I found something that said there is an HPV test. There is an option, but talking to some doctors, they've never heard of it. So there's a disconnect there where it seems there is a test available, but yet a lot of doctors don't realize that
Well, I mean, honestly, I think you just said 86% of all
80% of all
80%
adults
of all
been
people
exposed.
have been exposed at one time or another in their life. So I guess that's probably the reason that they want to go younger in giving the vaccine.
Right,
to
well, you've
remove
been
that
exposed
risk.
to one of the strains of HPV at some time, but it doesn't mean you've already been exposed to one of the strains that are associated with cervical cancer. Just means you've been associated to the human papillomavirus.
Okay, all right. So you had mentioned that Rhode Island is the only state that mandates it?
It was the only state in the nation that had full authority to mandate without legislative oversight. I just recently found out that New Hampshire now also has that authority as of just like 3 years ago or something pretty recent.
Their legislature gave them the right to
Yeah.
mandate vaccines?
Yes, their legislator just recently gave them the right. Rhode Island got the right
Because we
decades
never
ago.
regulated them. Nah, we let them do whatever they want. All right, so that's why Rhode Island got out there really quickly, and they got money to do it.
Well, we think the money that they got was they used
To buy the vaccine and give it.
right, and we think it was incentive for them to mandate it because it was a program to push the HPV vaccine. It was an HPV grant for $638 some odd dollars, over $500,000, just for an HPV grant in the state of Rhode Island to cover 2014 through October of 2016. So we're coming up on the end of the time frame that grant was intended for.
Okay, well, we'll talk about a little bit more of that in a moment, and we'll be right back.